Hello, this is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo, South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And today I'm sitting here with Trevor, Braden, and Adam. They are all in the same shop in the South Dakota Air National Guard. And Trevor got a hold of me with a friend request on Facebook, and we started talking about the podcast. He had seen some of that and was talking about how his supervisor talks about how important relationships are, and he said that we've shown some of that on the podcast here. So I was like, hey, we've mostly had, older people or people that are out of the service already. And I was like, well, yeah, why don't we get some younger folks in here? We've only done one like this so far, so this will be the second one. So thanks for coming on, guys.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. It's our pleasure. You're welcome.
Yeah, so why don't you just one at a time go ahead and introduce yourself and just say as much as you want about how you grew up, where you grew up, family past and family now, just whatever you're comfortable with, and we'll just have each one of you take a turn.
Start with me?
You bet.
All right. Braden Junker. I grew up in Centerville, South Dakota, just a town of 900 people. Played sports and all that stuff. Went to college for a couple of years and then decided to join the military late. It was just something that I wanted to do. Both my grandpas served in Korea and World War II, so it was just always something that I thought if I never did it, I'd regret it. So that was one of my main reasons. I live in Canton now, and I got 3 daughters. My wife, they're 9, 7, and just turned 3. So, am I forgetting?
Perfect. I like how you mentioned the past military stuff, and we may talk about that a little bit more with the family too. But yeah, Trevor, how about you?
Yeah, Trevor Linden Hansen. Grew up between Sioux Falls and Humboldt. Went to Montrose High School. Graduated there in 2014. If that wants to age anybody a little bit there. At home, got my lovely wife Karen. She's an ER nurse. I'm very proud of that. Very proud of her for doing that. I have 2 kids, Jackson and Katie, 7 and 5. We just pushed Katie off to kindergarten this year, so we have a first grader in a kindergarten. Things are extremely busy at the house. Joined the military in 2014. Got a couple family members that are in the military. We can talk about that a little bit later, as you said. And really just joined the Air Force because airplanes are cool. I just thought about that growing up. I never really had a military want or desire, but I knew the Air Force had cool airplanes, and I wanted to be a part of that. So went ahead and enlisted then, and I've fallen in love with it, and it's a true passion of mine to be with now.
Did you go to any air shows and things that sparked that interest?
Absolutely. I think the first air show I went to was 2010. The only thing I remember about that is the Blue Angels and the F-22 Raptor demo team. So that may have been why I thought airplanes are cool, because, well, it's the F-22. It's the baddest airplane in the world. Since then, I've had a lot of pleasure to be able to pump fuel at air shows and make air shows happen from our point of view and from the fuel side, and quite had a bit of fun with it. So they can be a lot of work, but it's just cool to see airplanes do cool things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Adam, why don't you go ahead and then also explain the shop that you're in and what you do?
Okay. My name's Adam Dan Sisson. Let's see. September 23rd in 1993, I walked down the jetway. 4 years active duty, and then I did a year as a guardsman, and then in 99 I got on full-time at the Air Guard. Started out in POL. I did some time in sheet metal, and I'm back in POL now, so that's the shop that we're in, where we gas the airplanes, take care of the fuel on base, the diesel and the unleaded, and all the accounting side of it. Great team, great job. I love it. I grew up in Harrisburg. I was born in New Jersey, but when I was 1, my parents moved to Harrisburg, and that's where I went to school. College was never a dream of mine. I knew it was not going to be a dream of mine, so it made sense to join the Air Force. That's what I did. I enjoyed that, learned a lot. I was stationed at Edwards Air Force Base. That was my first base. Blew my mind just to see all the stuff. Got to see the shuttle land there 3 times. Did a year in Korea. From what I remember, it was a lot of fun. We did a year in Offutt, and then I joined the Guard. So
I was off at active duty.
Awful Offutt, right?
Yep. So if you can survive there, you can survive anywhere.
Yeah,
is what they said.
Once you get on it, you never get off it. Was what I heard.
Yeah, I got one buddy that I think he spent his entire career there, or he was gone for 1 year and come back and spent the rest. Married a gal in the area, so it worked out for him. But yeah, the Air Force usually doesn't do that. But
I was kind of a weekend warrior type. I worked down there, but every weekend I was up here, hanging out with my friends. That's how I met my wife. So met her. We dated for a couple of years. She had an uncle in the Air Force, said she would never marry somebody in the Air Force, and here I am. So I guess I told her I was getting out, and then I joined the Guard, and it's been a great ride. Got 3 kids. One's Jonah, he's 20. Carly just turned 18, and Eli's 14. So that's where I'm at right now.
So you're like 30-ish years, and you're at 20-ish years and 10-ish?
I'll be 10 in October.
I've got
Okay.
18.
18.
Yeah, 31.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
Coming
plenty
up.
of perspective.
19 coming up in February. So yeah.
Yeah. So you guys all understand each other when you're talking in the shop and everything. Have you had to take any multi-generational training or any of that kind of stuff?
we
We've
have
done
by
that.
Actually, yeah.
choice. It actually does help, at least for the guy with 30 years in, and a 20-year-old and an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old. So it's there's some big difference that I'm realizing, in good and bad. Like everything. I was the 18-year-old young kid that came into the shop one day too, that probably didn't do as much as he should have done, or probably didn't do it quite the way he should have done it. So
Right.
I get it.
So what do you have for hobbies?
Well, my wife and I are avid hockey fans. That's our thing we do through the wintertime. That's our vacations. That's our alone time, is the drive to the cities. And during the summertime, I'm a racing fan. Shout out to Tags, Aaron Warner.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yep. And Quentin Johnson. And then Dan Karsrud almost picked himself up a win here on Sunday night with a broken front wing on a sprint car. So,
Yeah, because he's driving now too. Because
Yes,
didn't
he
he
is.
start being Tag's mechanic?
yep, sure did. Yeah, he started out as Tags mechanic there, and then somehow got himself a car. And it's like he used to drive modifieds a few years back, I remember, and got back in the seat, and it was almost like he's never left it. He's a real good driver. He's a real talented man. Works hard on his stuff, and you can tell. So I grew up doing that. I don't know if you remember Julie Zitterich at all from CE. So her husband, Gary, my dad worked for Gary for a long time, and they got me into racing at a very, very young age.
Okay.
And so I raced go-karts around the area for quite a long time. And then once you start having kids, you got to start being responsible and grow up a bit. So I had to do that and stepped away from it. So
Yeah, Tags has a T-shirt hanging over
yeah,
here.
I seen that. That's pretty cool. That's the first time I've seen his T-shirts, and they're pretty nice. I
Yeah,
like that.
we're actually getting ready to do one of these. We might do it in the shop with like the
Oh,
car in
nice.
the
Yeah,
background.
that'd
Oh,
be
that'd
really
be
cool.
great.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so I'm probably based on this weekend, what I have going on. I'm looking at maybe going there on Sunday night.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe get some footage and then talk to him in the back.
Yeah,
down there.
absolutely.
Maybe I'll see you out there.
Yeah. We'll see if we can get away.
yeah, based on what you said earlier.
Yeah. Shameless plug to Dirt Vision. I can watch it at home on my couch too. So
All right. How about hobbies for you?
So I still watch football. I'm a Cornhusker fan, which has been difficult, to say the least. But
When I was in college, it wasn't difficult, but
yeah, the glory days.
I was a Husker fan
It's
until
been a
I
while.
was in Offutt,
Yeah.
and then I couldn't stand to be a Husker fan after that. So
So I still follow them. Our friends have season tickets, so I try to go to at least one game a year because it's still fun, even if they're not good. And then follow the NFL a little bit. I'm also a Bills fan, so that's been almost a similar story.
right.
It's kind of like being a Vikings fan. We're very similar teams, so it's been a rough quite a few decades. But and then I do some hunting, mostly deer hunting now anymore. I used to do a little like waterfowl and some pheasant hunting, but don't really kind of put that to the side for right now.
as you rattle through your kids' ages,
yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So
I was
got to
also a
pick and
deer
choose
hunter.
what.
I was also a deer hunter there for a little bit, and succumbed to the same things.
it gets better.
Yeah, there's always time. later on. It's-
Pretty soon your kids are taking you out.
right.
Yeah.
So that's the stage I'm in now, and with fishing, my son's backing the boat off and taking care of all that. So it gets better. Just hang in there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and does it matter, girls or boys, from what you've noticed or from what you've heard from other people as far as the interest in hunting as they get older?
For me, my girl is, if it's anything over a 22 caliber, she doesn't want to shoot it. So it's just me and the boys. Fishing, she will go if I promise to pull her in the tube. So that's what fishing is for her. But she'll get out when we go up to a lake for a week every year, and she'll go out and do some fishing then. But not too serious. And the boys are pretty serious about it. So my oldest, I think he's fishing today. Actually, him and a buddy are taking a boat out. So yeah, they're pretty serious about it.
Mm-hmm. So was that the main extent of your hobbies, or did you have some others that you either used to do, are doing, or going to do?
Oh boy, so used to Jack Boatwright got me into the front wheel drive racing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one of the scariest things I've ever done. Well, I've done a couple scary things with Jack Boatwright, but yeah, Jack got me into that front wheel drive racing. And then the first year it was Deuces Wild, where the gas pedal was on the passenger side.
Yep.
So I was driving, my friend Rob Kessler, he was running the gas, and I'll remember the first night we got in, he said, "You just steer this because all I'm going to do is press on the gas." and he was a man of his word. So I did that, kind of like Trevor said. I had kids, and my main sponsor, who was my wife, said she was done sponsoring me. So that wrapped up, had fun doing that. And then kind of, once kids came, kind of stepped away from racing, but hunting and fishing, and right now, probably trap shooting. I coach the Harrisburg trap shooting team. So my oldest was in it, and he actually came back and coaches the team, and my youngest boy is in it now. So that's kind of what our main hobby right now, and then fishing too we throw in there. But I've kind of, since we got the boat, I've kind of steered away from ice fishing. I'm becoming a fair weather fisherman.
Sure. I can
I think
that.
age, that happens with age, but yeah, probably hunting and fishing and deer hunting mostly. So
When we're done, we got to look at this big white trailer.
I was
that's
going to
out
ask
here.
you about that.
Yeah, the back half is an old FedEx truck, and the front. Actually, there's a video on my channel about it, the homemade fishing shack.
Okay.
And, but we'll go look at that.
Yeah,
when we-
definitely.
Yeah,
'Cause
absolutely.
when I walked up,
cool.
I'm like, that's got to be an ice shack.
It is.
That's cool.
Yep. Now we start taking it out to the Black Hills for our horseback trip, and we sleep in it.
Sure.
Some of us do.
Sure.
So that turns out pretty good.
Yeah,
So.
that's great.
So did you have any hobbies as a kid that you weren't doing, or some that you're looking forward to later in life?
I mean, my wife's probably got something different to say, but I'd love to get back behind the wheel of a race car. That's kind of what I hope to do when I get to grow up. That was really, I when it comes to racing and hockey, if that's what you're doing as a kid, the money pretty much runs out. I tried football and such in high school, tried track, and I wasn't strong enough for football, and I wasn't fast enough for track. So kind of learned real quick that wasn't for me, and that's just how it is. Sometimes it's just not for you. So took a big step back from that, but that's kind of what I've always done is just the hockey and racing. For some reason they go together. I don't know why, but they do.
Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
How about you, Braden? In the past or in the future?
past, let's see. I used to fish too, I guess. I forgot about that. That was one of the first things I kind of quit doing, but that wouldn't be so bad. I grew up by the Vermilion River, so we do a lot of that all the time. But so that, just more outdoor stuff would be probably something on my list. Just do and see which one of my kids are interested in that. So time will tell.
Right.
And if they're not, that's okay too. But
I guess I kind of forgot about you bringing up the Vermilion. So living in Montrose, we had one of the Vermilion forks there. So we spent a lot of high school fair weather days causing mischief around the river and such, and trying to fish catfish as much as we could. And that turned into just casting. So, and I said I never was a fisherman. I was more of a caster than anything. So,
Well, in that river, I've heard that it only has about a foot drop every mile or so.
yeah,
Is that true?
it can be
It's-
pretty slow, and then it can be pretty fast depending on where the water level's at.
Well, the flooding is immense because of that low level of drop. It fills entire valleys.
Oh yeah.
So Did you have any specific goals or anything when you joined the military? Was there what totally drove you into, yes, I'm going to raise my hand?
I'd like to say it was the fact I didn't want to go to college and I didn't want to work somewhere else. But I think whether you know it or not at the time, within you, there's something that's driving you to serve or to be a part of something bigger. And I that came to light further in my career. But initially it was, I don't want to do college. I want to join the military because they teach you exactly what you need to do, and they don't teach you all these other courses that you have to take. And I never even asked my parents if there was any money for college because I figured after the first semester I wouldn't be invited back. So I had zero desire for that, and I thank God that He led me where He did, because I'd have wasted a lot of time and money and wouldn't be where I'm at now. So once I got in, before I got in, I'm like, I'm doing 20 years. I'm going to do 20 years active duty and retire. Why wouldn't I? It's the easiest gig you can get. And I thought, well, my goal was, if I can retire a master sergeant, I've had a good career. So actually 3 years, 11 months, and 24 days is when I got out of active duty, because I'm like, this isn't the career I want. And honestly, the biggest thing I saw was the family joins the military when I have a family. And I saw kids moving different schools, throughout their school. And I didn't think my, at the time, girlfriend wanting to be wife turned out to be wife. I'm like, she had a career that she was on track with, and to uproot that, it just didn't seem that I wanted that life for my family. And also to, with the active duty, it just seemed like it was hard, because in the Air Guard, I can buy a house. I can work on my acreage. I can improve it. I know I'm not going to have to move in a year or 2 years. And I'm a pretty homebody, and I kind of I need to have my spot. Right. So that kind of turned me off to active duty. The guys and gals that I met, that they were amazing. That I missed that part of not getting to spend more time with them. But then also too, I got the Air Guard team and people that I got to meet there. But yeah, so I thought, man, if I can be a master sergeant, that'd be the pinnacle of my career. So those were really my goals: 20 years and be a master sergeant. Well, I've been in 31 now, so I guess I hit that one, and I'm above I made senior master sergeant, so I was blown away by that. So
okay, I thought you were a senior now.
Yeah.
So yeah, good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah, ours are very, very much parallel. 2 years, 4 months, 18 days for me. Acreage, home, family, all the stuff that you were mentioning. The good part about the Guard. How long were you part-time before you got on full-time?
I think I got on 97 as a guardsman. 99 I got on full-time.
Pretty good.
So they weren't beating down the door to get into POL at a WG8.
Yeah.
So played to my advantage.
Yeah, life support was WG9s, so both of our career fields were at the bottom there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was all, back then it was WG, what were they, 10s or 12s on the crew chiefs?
They were 12s.
12s, yeah, that was the one everybody was trying to get.
Yeah, they're graded to be 12s, but they did the local deal to get them up to, or the grading was a 10, but they did the local deal to bring them to 12s.
Because the phase guys who have the same AFSC were 10s.
Right. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, so you hoped you could get hired over there after you pay your dues.
Yeah, I saw a lot of people when I was in sheet metal move through phase to be crew chiefs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
God, that seems like 50 years ago.
Next thing you know, it will be. I've already been out almost 4 years already. It's just going like that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
so you were at that air show where we had the 22. I remember there, and that baby could just turn its butt
it was
in
beautiful.
just like, and
I think everybody in here was working it except for you, Trevor.
Yep.
Yep.
I got to watch Friday practice from my dad's apartment complex with a pair of binoculars sitting over on the other side of 229, and told my dad that next day, we got to go. We got to go see that. You won't believe what this airplane can do. I watched it sit still in the sky. Airplanes don't do that. And we went, and man, it was everything I dreamed of.
yeah, it's a little different than Maverick just throwing on the speed brakes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Very different.
You know what? It's cool. I just spent this last weekend down at Offutt at the Offutt Air and Space Show. It was the first one they've had in 6 years, and I took my kids down, and after a couple hours, they were pretty tuned out. But I tell you what, we got to see the F-18 Rhino demo team, the C-17 demo team. We got to see the E-4B, the 747 flyby. We got to see RC-135s fly by. An E-3 Century flew by, and I still felt like that little kid. That little kid just staring there, just seeing that F-18 come by at Mach as close as we can get to the speed of sound, and seeing the vapor trails off of it, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. That 747 and those ECs that you mentioned, I got to work on those.
Really?
Down at Offutt down
Nice.
there. That part was really cool.
Yeah.
About being able to be in those.
Was that the
jets.
big Snoopy nose one?
Well, the National Emergency Airborne Command Post is a 747s.
Oh,
That's for
yep.
the president, and there's 4 of them.
Yep.
There's 4.
But then you got to the RC-135s, had the big, long black nose,
Yep.
and the whole backside was just lined with computers and all that. And we would have to put parachutes and survival kits in each one of those.
Okay.
And there's a couple of those that had the big like cheeks
Yep.
on them,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so there were some differences on the RC. Then the EC-135 was the looking glass,
Yep.
where there was a general up there, and they had the command post basically was 24/7.
Okay.
Wow.
And then shortly after I left, they had to reduce flying hours, and they reduced weight. They started taking chutes and kits off the
yeah.
airplanes. They'd have 2 parachutes on there so the crew chief could check the hatches. Half the time they wouldn't put them on anyway to check the hatch. So
Right.
yeah, so there were some changes there, but it didn't fly 24/7 anymore. But it was cool being able to work on all of those.
Yeah. I'm pretty fortunate. One of my wife's sisters married a gentleman that was a navigator on the RC, and then he moved to the WISO, the weapons systems officer on it. So he was with us last weekend, and we got to go on board of a regular KC-135, and he was able to kind of walk us through. And obviously I don't have a security clearance to be on an RC-135, but we can be on KCs all the time. And he was able to kind of explain the interior difference and kind of how it goes. As he explained to me, he goes, "I'm the guy that got to open the big door," because he was the closest guy to it, so he had to. There was no room to walk around, so he had to be the guy that opened the door. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
So is there anything else? Oh, you had some family members, you said,
Oh,
were in the
yes.
military. So what's the story on some of them, and was that a huge factor for you?
So I actually didn't find out much about their military history until later in my life. My grandpa on my dad's side, Sergeant Bob Hansen, he was on board of a tank in Korea, and actually was at Heartbreak Ridge.
Really?
And fought in that battle, as well as 2 others that I'm still trying to research a little bit. But so there was him, and then my mom's brother, Chief Petty Officer Robert Linden, served 22 years in the Navy on board a ship. I think he was kind of an E&E type, also a flying crew chief, somewhere in there. He did a lot of missions he couldn't really talk about, and it took a toll on him. He did 11 deployments on board a ship, and unfortunately, 2016 PTSD got him, and we lost him.
Man, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. But I sat there. I'm part of the American Legion of Montrose, and one of the best things I get to do with that is do funeral honors all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst thing, but it's the best thing. It's something I can honor these people that are my friends, people that I get to know. And one thing I'm realizing this Monday, I sat through a very close friend of mine that we had to lay to rest, and I learned more about him from his obituary than I had in the last 10 years of knowing him.
Right.
And so it's really bringing to light that we talk about relationships. You see people all the time. You gotta talk to them a little bit. You gotta find out. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a path of life that they've taken, and it's really emphasized into me that you got to ask these questions. because an obituary is not the right place to find out that you have a lot in common with somebody.
Right.
It's very difficult.
And that's some of what this here is about, because there's a lot of people that they just don't open up to their families, and they don't all have to have these crazy, like Navy SEAL stories. It's your average Joe that I'm after to have some guys and gals just to be able to talk about what they did. And some of them will do it more in front of a setting like this with cameras and lights and a mic than they will in their living room with their family.
That was one thing. My dad was in Vietnam, and that was one thing is, he never talked about it. And I think he saw a lot of stuff he didn't want to talk about, and that's fair. But I always felt like that was kind of a connection we missed, like a military to military connection, sitting around having a beer and telling stories. I told him all the stories, but, I understand it. It was a different time then, and it was a lot of different stuff. But I miss that with him, to do that. But I also understand there's, we haven't all been through, like you said, the Navy SEAL stuff, but, there's things we just don't want to talk about or don't even want to bring up anymore around family. You get in a group like this, and we've all been through the same crap.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, and you don't ever want to get your spouses to worry,
Right.
even after the fact.
Right.
That's kind of what you're getting at.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
you don't want to get accused of lying to them at the time either. If you open up later, you could see some of that dynamic coming out.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. How about you, Braden?
I think I mentioned it earlier, but my dad's dad was in World War II, and he drove a Jeep. And one thing, if we've all probably seen Band of Brothers a few times over, but so when they were in the Battle of the Bulge, and the guy pulls up with the Jeep with all the ammunition, that was what my grandpa did. He was a resupplier, so that was what he did in World War II. And then my mom's dad, he was in Korea in the Marine Corps. And he ended up he was a prisoner of war. Spent some time in the prison camp, and then he got released. So yeah, just kind of like what Adam was saying. Like, there's certain things he would talk about, and a lot of things just wasn't comfortable with, saying,
Especially
because he
from
saw a
that
lot,
situation.
right? So it was similar to, there was a hill that they were trying to hold, and they got overrun by the Chinese actually. Which he's like, I never saw a North Korean soldier. It was all Chinese that were overrunning them. So, but yeah, it was just pretty bad stuff. And he would just talk about it as like training and the point up until when he got captured pretty much. And it's a little bit when he was in the prison camp. But a lot of those details just kind of were left alone. And that's, totally understood. Like that's some stuff you probably don't want anybody to have to hear again.
And he doesn't want to relive some of that POW stuff, I'm sure.
Right.
So did you hear some of those stories in before you went into the military?
I did, yep. We talked about it a lot. Like we knew he was in like the Marines, and he was a prisoner of war. And my grandpa that was in World War II talked about his service a lot too. And so they talked about it all the time. So that, I think that was a big factor. And my dad would have been in Vietnam, but he couldn't go because of medical reasons. So he always was kind of one of his regrets, as bad as, or however you want to say Vietnam was, he still regretted that he wasn't able to, he got drafted, but he couldn't go. So anyway, so there's a little bit of all that. And I went to college, I think I said that, for 2 years. And then I joined the Guard after those 2 years. And I did finish, so I was a guardsman for a while, but it just was something that kind of bugged me when I decided a couple of times not to do it. And then on the third time, I finally decided to, okay, like, this is something I'm supposed to do. So yeah.
So personal and professionally, what about you makes you gel with the military life?
We can answer if you
if you like.
Yeah, maybe that's what we should be doing. Answer for each other.
Yeah, you might want to. I think early on, like, I was always taught by just if somebody needed help, like, you help them. And I think that jived pretty well with the military, and you just listen to what somebody's, what they're telling you, teaching you, and all that stuff. So it was just kind of, I think I meshed pretty well with it. And then also, the reason I'm in POL, and I think all of us could probably say it, is our school is 6 weeks long. I honestly, and,
Yeah.
you know, cool and all, but it's a 6-week school, and at the time, basic training was 6 weeks, so I could do that, get back for college too. So there was a little bit of that too, but yeah, I don't know if you guys got something for me.
The
but,
original life sport school was 6 weeks as well.
okay,
You know, on that.
yeah, so it was pretty. I mean, some of the other ones were 16 weeks and stuff like that, and it's like, you know, fuel sounds pretty good. So and
Well, sometimes
It worked
there's
out well.
bonuses for certain jobs too. We were talking about because
Right.
you almost transferred into to
Right.
my shop. Now, so what is POL?
so
that people that don't know that acronym.
So yeah, POL is petroleum, oil, and lubricants is what it stands for.
Which we deal with no oil or
Yeah,
lubricant.
It's a pretty
Not
outdated
anymore, we
acronym.
don't.
It's outdated.
If we did,
Yeah.
if we used to, we haven't done it since I've been in.
I
so.
think they're subtly trying to change that to that POL or petroleum operations and logistics, that POL 9-level course or whatever. But
If you get back far enough, it stands for painting odd jobs and landscaping.
yeah, that's true.
Oh, there we go. Almost got it right. I got to learn how to run this board a little better.
Good.
We're trying to help you out, Jim.
I appreciate that. That's needed more than what you know.
Right. Well, I think, Braden, you mentioned some there, though, like the always trying to help other people and always being that. I think that's something that, like, we all of us in the military really share, is that selfless sacrifice of always being able to reach out to serving others before yourself. I mean, I think that's why I was attracted to my wife. She wants to help people. That's all she wants to live for. And it works with me because that's what I do. That's all I want to do, is just help other people. And I guess I get to do it by serving my country, which means I get some very interesting vacations out of the deal.
Very, very awesome. And being at your age and being a part of the military organizations, because there's a lot of people that just aren't joining those. Or,
Right.
you know, the memberships are waning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And a lot
it's
of that, so.
definitely showing.
Yeah. I know I mentioned the American Legion. I served as the post adjutant of our post for a while. And in a small town of Montrose, where we have 400, we had 113 members of our American Legion. And that was a very difficult number to reach. Part of my job was membership, and there's a lot of people that just they get what they need from the military, and they walk back, and they don't want anything more of the extra stuff, and it's tough.
Right. And you mentioned the vacations.
Yeah,
You know,
that's very
sarcastically.
It's like how I used interesting vacations.
Yeah. So what are some of the countries? We'll start with the guy with the least amount of service and work our way up.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate to in 2021 to deploy to a very, very small air base. It's called Airbase 201 in Niger, Africa. The base was built in 2017 and it closed in September of this year. And I got to see what it means to live in poverty. People that judge their wage based on how many meals a week they eat.
Man.
Got to see a very interesting mission. It was an entirely ISR mission, so we were flying a lot of different drones between the Air Force, the Army, and then some contractors. Some really cool airplanes. Some the MQ-9, the MQ-1, and then a couple others that are interesting. Got to see some very. We talk about the people that continue to serve. So we got to see contractors who, after their Air Force career or their Army career, went into a profession where they live in Africa for a year, and all they're doing is combat search and rescue as civilians. They're flying into countries that the U.S. Air Force and the U.S. Army can't fly into, and specifically there to help people, the Nigerians, the French, the Americans that are wounded in combat. The forces that we were going up against there, Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, Al Qaeda, they were ruthless compared to the Nigerian forces. Those men that were training in the Nigerian army are probably some of the bravest men that I've ever seen in my life. They're under-equipped. We were doing the best we could to train them, and they were marching down to take on the same enemy that we're fighting in up north, except this enemy was more ruthless. They were Boko Haram was marching into towns and slaughtering women and children just because. And being a part of that was a lot. It was a lot. I was on a shift where there was one of us doing POL support 7 days a week to support an MQ-9 that was going out and just mapping areas and finding important people, at least people that were important to us, that were important to the people on the ground that needed to dispose of them. And seeing that and seeing how that all works was interesting is a good word for it. It's a very unique mission.
How many countries had you been to with the military prior to that one?
That was my first and only deployment out of the United States.
Really? In 2021?
2021. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I've taken a lot of CONUS deployments here. I like to say I've been to every corner of the U.S., the exception of the Northeast or the Northwest. But that one was my first trip truly overseas, the 16-hour C-17 ride, missed COVID as well, and all that came with that. But yeah, that was my one experience.
That's a big one right off the
It
bat.
was, and I went there as the lab specialist. So my job there, my primary deployment job was ensuring that there was safe fuel on the base. So it was clean, it was dry, and it was up to Air Force specification. Which when you're doing an ISR mission isn't, I mean, it's drone goes up, drone comes down, good deal. It hit me when my best friends got on a C-17 to leave on fuel that I said was okay. That's when it all comes to life, because if that airplane goes down once it leaves the fence, if they survive the landing, they're not going to survive the people that show up. And those, we talked about the brotherhood of being in location, you just hang out with people. These were people that I'd gotten very close with. I knew them by first name basis. I knew their husbands, their wives, I knew their kids, and seeing them load up on that airplane, all of a sudden you go, oh, I really hope I did my job really good today. If not, it's kind of late, but you see that and you're just like, oh, they're on their way home. I guess that means I did my job exactly how I should have.
That's a driving force every morning.
It is.
And I've said that, anybody's position has things that you need to do that to the average person could seem a little bit ho-hum with the repetition, but that's where the military discipline takes that away from it. It is not ho-hum. Everything needs to be done right, on time, and perfectly. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Well, we talked about Adam got his incentive flight here a few weeks ago. I managed the cryogenics on our base. And between myself and a couple other people, we make sure that LOX is clean, that breathing oxygen is clean, it's good. And if we didn't, we would have killed our fearless leader, our favorite uncle. And that would have sucked. He would have been very angry. He probably would have come back and haunted us good.
Yeah.
So
my wife would have probably come back and haunted you real good too.
Yeah. And your kids that I was standing next to. And
you bring that up, and my daughter was a little concerned about me going on that flight, and I said, Carly, look, we got the best maintainers, we got the best back shops, we got the best pilots, we got the best POL team. The fuel's good, the liquid oxygen's good. I said, I'm more nervous driving to work than I am going up in that.
Yeah, good point.
When you work for a team that's that spot on all the time. Yeah.
Well, and if need be, that seat's coming out if it needs to. So.
Yeah, I knew where the handle was and how it worked.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we have gotten to see proof concept there.
Yeah. We've got a good egress shop.
Yes, we do.
For sure. Then the flight equipment shop putting the stuff together that goes in that seat. So they all work together.
Well, and like I said earlier, my entire career, I'd never stepped foot in that shop until I was doing my incentive flight, and I was very wowed by the shop itself and the guys working there. Just like every other shop on base, though, laser focus on what they're doing and doing it right. And it's a neat theme to see around our unit, because we've all seen other units and we're the exception to the rule.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our shop, I've said the term life support before, but that was prior to 2008. And then we combined and merged with the parachute shop. So now it's called Aircrew Flight Equipment, AFE. So, you'll have to just go in there sometime with a visit and just look at the night vision goggles, the joint helmet mounted cueing systems. I remember when we had kind of an influx of young folks into my shop, and on guard drills for probably 3-4 drills in a row, I rigged shops for them to go see.
Sure.
As part of their drill.
Good option.
Take that hour or whatever, and then they can gain relationships with people in
Yep.
other shops, and
Yep.
that's a good way to start. So maybe you'll have some folks that want to. And I myself never went up to see an engine run
Oh,
at the
really?
Rush House. Yeah, I've heard about it. All the people in my shop had gone, but I didn't go myself.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I got some friends over there. We ought to sneak you in one of these times. It's quite the experience.
Yeah. So how about countries you've been to?
So actually, mine was back. My big one, let's call it. Bump that.
You're fine.
I had a 6 month back in 17, so that was actually one of my first overseas deployments like that. Did a lot of TDYs and other stuff. We did a POTUS one after that, so a presidential one. But so I was
right after I left. I think wasn't that like 21ish?
Yeah, 21. So
Yeah.
I did that. It was a much shorter one. But so the one in 17 I was in United Arab Emirates, so Al Dhafra Air Force Base, and it was busy. We were at that time. It was a lot of ISIS stuff going on in Syria and Iraq, so all of our stuff was basically flying over there to do bombing missions and all that stuff. So the base was undisclosed when I got there, and then they disclosed everything. But we had U2s, AWACS, we had Global Hawks, F-22s, Aussie F-18s, and KC-10s. So we had like everything you could think of.
So you had some studying to do then to be able to learn to fuel all those different items then, huh?
Yeah, and with that, it's more just figuring out, where at on the jet is the receptacle, and how do you back in, or what do you do? But yeah, that was real busy. Lots of fuel getting pushed around. I've never seen anything like it. But it was kind of like Trevor said. The fighters would take off, like especially the Aussies. You could see the weapons on them, and they'd come back with nothing on them. So you knew what your purpose was there. So that was, there was a lot of bad stuff happening in Syria and Iraq at that point, and we had pushed. I think that was when they had Raqqa. I think they had pushed ISIS out of there when I was there. So stuff like that. It was you could see some of the stuff that we had accomplished. So
Now our Iraq trips between like 2005 and 10 or whatever, we had 3 of those trips. I was on all 3 of them, but they were closer to a 90-day deal. And most of the 6-monthers were, some of them were just very specific positions, and some of them were officer positions. So as time went, more of your back shops and things started to do the 6-monthers.
Yep.
right.
So what'd you think of that 6-monther?
It was really
Yeah.
Yep.
And we do realize these guys still work out at the Guard, so we'll
No,
see
it
if there's
was-
any editing or not.
no, it was a good trip. We, like I said, you could see what we were doing, and progress was being made. They made that clear, what we could see, and we watched some videos and stuff like that showed the things that we were doing and why we were there. So everybody always wants to know the why. So they made that pretty clear to us. So, but it was good. 6 months is a long time at home for stuff to happen. And I had a lot of stuff happen while I was gone, but the trip itself was the easy part. Over there, it was stuff that happened back home was kind of, just, it never fails. Call it Murphy's Law, shows up and whatever. But
Even the things you find out that happened while you were gone that your wife
that
didn't tell
just
you
decided
about.
to not say anything because can't do anything about it.
For me, it was, while I'm over there deployed, everybody's worrying about me, and all I'm doing is worrying about my family at home.
Right.
We're doing your job, but the worry that I had was about the family at home. And part of that's we'd probably just focus on that, so we're not worrying about the situations we're in and things like that. But my wife told stories of what she had to go through when I came back, and I'm like, thank you for not telling me about that and working through it.
Yeah, so that stuff we were talking about a while ago, it goes both ways, doesn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Very conscientious on both sides. It's pretty cool.
It's if people that aren't in the military don't understand how much the family plays a role. They support you. For us, they're missing us one weekend a month and on deployments, and that's a lot of weekends. And I don't know if they get talked about enough as the support that they give us. I know they get mentioned in things, but I guess I'm speaking for Adam. I probably need to say some more thank yous.
Yeah, and comes up during retirements as well, but that's not enough.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's a world that I've just I'm starting to learn. I thought I appreciated how much my wife did and how much my kids went through, and now my wife works straight nights every other weekend.
Really?
Yes. So I got a crash course in what it means to not have my significant other around, and that's over a 3-day period. And it's tough. Karen, if you're watching, I respect everything you do, and I am so thankful for everything you do every second of the day.
They're better at it than we are.
They are
too.
so better at it.
Yeah.
Oh, they are so better at it. No, that 6 months it's good and bad. Yeah, it can drag on, but also you can get established in where you're at, and you can find a routine really well, and you can meet people, and then you can learn about people. And some of my longest friends came from that deployment, just because you didn't have a choice. That's the one. I had 3 people in my shop, and I didn't know the 2 of them before I got there, and one of them's still one of my best friends today.
Mm-hmm. And when you are away from the home shop, everything that you do at war and back your home shop, there's a lot of similarities there. But when you are deployed, there's certain things that you aren't bothered with that you would in your home shop. So when you've taken care of the fueling, things are launched, this and that, you have that time to talk, and that's the best way to utilize that time.
Yep.
Was there any other countries?
Basically that was I had a lot of nice TUIs before that, but before that we talked about the length. When I was in college, they were only about 30 days, I believe. So a lot of those I didn't go on, and then not being with the aircraft packages, we didn't get attached with those. So there's a large portion of my career that I didn't go on any, contingency stuff like that. So just more stateside TDYs and stuff. So yeah, it was definitely an eye opener, but it was a lot. I got learned a lot and a lot of experience, and learned a lot from others, and both good and bad, So
Right.
no, I learned a lot. It was all good looking back.
You get to see everything on a deployment, good and bad.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
How about you, Adam?
My deployments fall into 2 categories: before 9/11 and after 9/11.
Right.
Because before 9/11, I don't know if we could call them deployments. They were trips.
Right.
Tucson. My first overseas was Hawaii. First with the Air Guard. When I was active duty, I went to Saudi Arabia. I had to backfill for an individual that had to come home for emergency leave, and even that, we went downtown after the shift, and we'd do things, and it was a whole nother time before 9/11. And then Tucson, Hawaii, Tyndall Air Force Base, stateside. Probably missing some states. Ellsworth one time. That was a fun 1-week trip out to Ellsworth with our 16s, and that was fun.
Those 1-weekers are a good time.
Yeah.
I got to, everybody watching was at the Duluth one. Man, that was a good. Did you get to go up to Duluth a few years back?
No.
That 1 week went. Oh man, that was a good time.
Then 9/11. So everything changed for us. It became very real quick. First trip after 9/11 was only 2 weeks, but we went to Germany and were mainly supporting the C-17s that were dropping MREs for the refugees and for all the civilians and stuff. So that was really, after 9/11, what you did at Joe Foss Field became real, because our cushy job that we have at Joe Foss Field is to train us and to train the guardsmen to go do our job, in an environment where we're doing bad things to bad people. And, that really hit home with 9/11. We got to watch it unfold on TV. So, it was different. Then I think after Germany, I think it was Iraq. I went on the first trip and the last trip. I don't think I didn't go on the middle one. Yeah, that was interesting. We were on a base where our Air Force had basically ran the Iraqis out of the base, so it was surreal going into a hardened shelter and seeing a hole in the ceiling where one of our bombs went in and blew something up. Our shop had a hole in it from a rocket. It was just a metal Quonset hut, essentially. I was in sheet metal at that time, and there was a hole from a rocket right through the sidewall. And
so you could fix that, right?
Yeah, we never did. We never did fix it. it was part of the setting, I guess. But yeah, and that was, you're seeing your airplanes that you worked on that going up with stuff and coming back without, and you're doing what you signed up for. It was nicer, our easy jobs at Joe Foss Field, but I think you just step up when it's time to go do what you need to do, and it was very fulfilling, I guess, to know that working on that airplane and getting that airplane in the air, fixing what I needed to fix so it could make its sortie, knowing even if it didn't go and drop a bomb, there were still Army on the ground that would call them if they needed it. And just knowing that you're part of something bigger and watching that jet take off that you got to work on just put it all together for me. So and it's kind of now that I'm in POL, when I see the jets take off, it's just, they wouldn't be making all that noise if it wasn't for us.
Yeah, and some of those launches, when I was down in St. Louis with some of my F-15 buddies down there, and one of them mentioned the taking off at 01:30 in the morning, and everybody's there getting these things ready to go, and they're hopping into heavy jets themselves to go, whether ESTA or Advon or main body, and with our job, it's watching the pilots come into the shop, get all their gear on, we issue the weapons, all that kind of stuff. And then they get out there, and it takes a while, of course, for them to get going to where they're actually taking off. But you're standing there at 1:30 in the morning, and it was cold out. We didn't even have jackets on. We're just like, man, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then you grab your bag and you go run on the jet and take off.
Like I said, airplanes are cool.
Especially when there's like 14 of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because you got your ground spare, you got your 2 air spares, you got your 12. You're going to try to get over there. And you don't really leave the area till after the first refueling,
Right.
that kind of deal. But yeah, it's a feeling, we can all say like no other, depending on who you're listening to and what their experiences are. But I never got tired of that. I still don't get tired of jet noise, right?
No.
I got a
Ground
4-way
shaking.
stop right here, and I love it. All the bikers like to go by here to ride Newton Hills, go down to Hudson, go to Waddy's, have lunch. Harley's, crotch rockets, sports cars. I don't care what I love it. I want to put a sign out there and say noise doesn't bother me, because I want them to wrap it when they're leaving.
It's just proof that none of us grow up.
Oh man,
We're all
race
little,
car
we're all little boys
stuff.
inside.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, and I forget who it was, but they asked me one time, do you know what comes out the back of an F-16? I go, exhaust. They go, freedom.
Yep.
And that's always kind of stuck with me. I enjoy that one, because seeing that afterburner go when they're taking off, it also just, it doesn't get off the ground without POL, but it also doesn't get off the ground without a crew chief, without a back shop, without a pilot, without somebody in life support getting them ready, without somebody in supply getting that part so that jet could be fixed. And the older I get and the more I see that really excites me, because it's like, when you're in your shop, you think you're the biggest deal there is, and as I'm getting older, I see how just everything out there is a big deal. And it's neat to see how everybody, each shop, they think of it as a big deal too. It's I don't know, it's neat. It's probably just 30 years of nostalgia in me, but it's the older you get a little wiser, and you start seeing a little more big picture.
Yeah, and then the admin side, you got
Oh,
the
absolutely.
finance for the pay, the budget in the first
Right.
place, how that
Oh.
gets distributed.
Yeah.
Everybody's paperwork and human resources.
The-
I mean, if you want to piss somebody off, mess
Oh.
with their pay and their human
Yeah.
resources
Yep. Yeah.
subjects,
Right. Yep.
and their work is, maybe not going to be quite
I tell these guys all the time, I'm like, here's the admin people you want on your side because they keep you out of trouble. And I got a couple, that they're like, hey, on these orders, this isn't quite right. And I mean, they save my bacon a lot. And
First, I thought you were talking about security police. No.
yeah, it's
Busted.
yeah, it's just neat to see everything come together on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing I noticed when I was in Africa was that, we had FSS. Well, they're giving us a place to sleep.
Mhm.
That's a big deal right there. And I got food on my plate whenever I want to go get it. You try to find a staff sergeant that's got a mountain to climb with no food and nowhere to sleep. He's going to be pretty ornery.
Mm-hmm.
You got CE. CE's sitting there building all of our stuff up, maintaining the roads we drive on, maintaining power. Yeah, power is a pretty cool thing to have in the
Take
middle
that
of
for
nowhere.
granted.
Yep.
Yeah.
Comm, our internet we had no phone service where we were at. Internet was the only way we were communicating through our cell phones. I mean, the list goes on. The security forces with their military working dogs. I mean, they caught 2 bomb approaches at our gate. That's death.
Mm-hmm.
That's those guys don't do their job, and I don't get to go home to see my wife. That's a big deal to me. There's a reason why the South Dakota National Guard or Air National Guard has over 1,000 people in it. It's because every single person matters. Everybody's got a very, very good job to do, and if they do it well, that well-oiled machine just keeps on ticking.
Mm-hmm.
We,
Yeah. And
we
you talked
mentioned
about all the well-trained people that are out there and the full-timers, and you try to train the part-timers, keep them up to speed. There are some absolutely amazing part-timers out there.
absolutely.
Oh,
You know,
gosh, yes.
Absolutely.
Traditional guardsmen, part-timers, whatever
Yep.
you want to
Yeah.
Yep. I think DSG is the term now, but
Yeah,
I,
drill
Yeah.
status guardsmen.
it's
Yeah.
hard
Yep.
for me to
Yeah.
use that vocabulary.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
You were
They-
talking about food and money, so that brings me to my Jordan trip where
Oh, yeah.
we had the same food for over and over and
I
over
heard
and
about
over
that.
because they were switching out contractors, and it was chicken in a gravy, beef in a gravy over rice, and they put cinnamon in everything. And cinnamon's still hard for me to enjoy unless it's on a
Man.
yeah.
when they tell you you're going to get MREs for 3 days and you're excited about
Yep.
it.
Exactly.
That's that.
Yeah.
But I went into work. There were days where I was just upset because I went in at noon and lunch just sucked, or it was the same thing you had for the past 7 days. So
Yeah.
so the people working in the chow hall, the simple fact that we don't have to eat the same thing day in day out when we're deployed, it's huge. So
Yeah. My shift started at 2 a.m., so it meant I missed midnight chow, and I didn't get to eat till breakfast. So when I went into the chow hall, they always had a box of Pop-Tarts there. It's the first time I'd ever seen it. They were wheat Pop-Tarts. And that day we didn't have wheat Pop-Tarts in that chow hall, that was one of the worst days of my entire deployment. I spent the next 4 hours hungry, and it was a pain.
Well, I was going to ask, what was one of the most challenging days or situations? Maybe that was yours.
Well, I tell you what, I should. One of my last days, I bring up the food thing, and it's a good joke thing.
Yeah, sure.
My stepdad's in the Army as well. I forgot to mention that. He's going to give me all sorts of heck when he hears that. But one of the last weeks, our base commander, we were so small, it was a squadron. It was Air Base Squadron. So our base commander loved to do walks of the base at 4 o'clock in the morning. And one of his last weeks I was there, I caught him at the picnic table, and we just sat there and we had a conversation. I'd gotten some paperwork earlier in it for coming off the handle at a supervisor, so he wanted to talk about that a little bit because we started talking. He goes, this place will eat you alive if you let it. Every day there's a mountain to climb. We had the derecho come through here a few years ago. We were dealing with that every other day.
Mm-hmm.
Every other day we'd walk in, and in a deployed location, we use fuel berms. They're big tarps basically laid out underneath tanks to contain a tank if it were to fail. Well, the bladders that hold the fuel are made of the same material. So when we'd get those big windstorms come in, they'd pick those bladders up, even with 1,000 gallons of fuel in them, and throw them. And they'd take those berms and they'd throw them too.
Wow.
So every other day we'd go in and we'd have to find the liners in bags and then drag them back over by hand to put them back. And they're not light. I mean, 1,000 gallons of diesel fuel is very heavy. It accumulated. I mean, we had a storm come through one day and it actually picked a tent up. We were in transit looking to leave. It's the worst time of deployment is when you're in the transit tents waiting to leave. It's the worst kept area and you don't know when you're leaving. That's like terrible. And we had a storm come through and I woke up, went outside and I went, there was a tent there. There was a tent across the street from us. Where is it at? And we walked behind our tent. It had gone through the side of a pickup, not just into it, but it literally tore the quarter panel off the pickup and then vaulted it over a double HESCO barrier. And that about sums up the storms we were dealing with because it was every other day was a mountain to climb. And that was just something that I took with me with that, you know. That was when things got difficult.
Mm-hmm. Braden, what's one or two of your most challenging times you went through?
Well, it actually involved what we just talked about with, with DSGs actually in their outside experience. So when I was in Aldoffer, we had they call it a Type 3 fuel system. So it always has pressure. It's pressurized all the time. So we had KC-10s there, and they take a ton of fuel. So when you're talking 30,000 plus gallons a pop. But we came into work that morning, and we see just a line of our fuel trucks, our regular fuel trucks, that had a couple of the KC-10s. So we knew that system was down. So that's obviously a challenge when this is like a no-fail deal. So what ended up happening is we had a guardsman out of the Minneapolis Air Guard out of Minnesota, and in his civilian job, he's an engineer, and he works on
It was water treatment.
Water treatment plants, yes, thank you. Yep. I told the story.
That's what I'm here for.
But so water treatment plants, they're very similar to a Type 3 fuel system. It's just, poop and fuel. But anyway, so what ended up happening was the control panel, something happened. It burnt up some stuff that was pretty serious. And he was actually able to, with his outside experience, get us back up and running. So that was one of a real challenge because we knew if that didn't happen, we were in, a big trouble. We could have probably got a contractor in, and it would have taken some time, but it would have been not fun. But yeah, so that's with the Guard, that's where your DSGs and their outside experience is invaluable sometimes. Whereas we would have been just SOL. So that was a challenge. Trying to think what else. That was probably the biggest. That was what we worried about the most there because of the heavies that we had.
So when it comes to fighter aircraft, we can gas. So F-16s, we can gas 3 to 4 airplanes on one standard tanker truck. They have approximately 6,000 gallons in them.
Right.
So if that hydrant loop wouldn't have been up for them, that's 6,000 gallons one at a time to this airplane, which means you can't go get other airplanes. And every single time you dump that truck, you have to go refill it and then come back out and get in line. The amount of man hours you'd lose, and that's just on one airplane. Mm-hmm. Where you're dealing with dozens of
so man hours and then wear and tear, and you start taking out other equipment that you really don't want to break. So that was quite the deal. So it was pretty neat to have him figure that out for us. So yeah, I always tell that story to all these guys because what are the odds that would he knew how to work on it. It was very similar. So
yeah, there's just cool. a wealth of information.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
You never know who you're working next to.
And you really hope your DSGs, know that you appreciate them.
Yeah. That's huge because what I have had to, my mindset is I've had to go to, they work at other jobs. They focus on their family and the other jobs they're doing. And they come here for a weekend and 2 weeks a year, and to get in that mindset of we need to ensure we're training them because it's such a valuable asset we have and such a little time we have to get it ready. And that's something I've really tried to work on is remember they have a life outside of 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year. As to, us, it was life. That's where we worked every day. That's where we went. The car can probably get there if I'm not paying attention.
Yeah.
So that
guard drill's just a second Tuesday.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, honestly, that's what it comes into.
Yeah, because when we're working 10-hour days, we'd have Monday off.
Yep.
So not them.
No.
They're going right back to
They're
work.
going right back
on
to
that
work, building
Monday.
houses, teaching kids. I mean, we've got guardsmen from all different facets of life. I mean, kids in school. I can call them kids. I shouldn't call them kids. Younger
No,
adults.
they're kids.
They're 10 years younger than me. I'm going to call them kids. Got kids in school. We got teachers. We've got construction. We've got so many different careers that are happening outside of the Air National Guard. We'd be stupid if we don't tap into some of that.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm having issues training somebody, I reach out to the teachers and go, hey, what am I doing wrong? What is it something I'm saying? What do I need to be doing better here? And they tell me.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we've got a great relationship of trust that they can tell it to me in a not very nice way sometimes. And I got to sit there and listen to it and know that it's out of love, even if I don't want to hear it.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, and the set of eyes that come in on a guard drill to look at how we're doing something, and that's one thing that drives me nuts is, why are we doing it? Well, we've always done it that way. And they bring a whole new set of eyes, and they ask why are we doing this? And then we'll be like,
That's a great question.
I don't know that right now, but I'll tell you. And it's really helped us grow as a team.
Right.
Having them ask us why, and if we can't explain it to them, we're doing it and we don't know why, and we need to adjust that, or we need to get back in the books and educate ourselves a little bit more. So they bring just such a breath of refreshing air when we have a guard drill. The guardsmen, the guys and gals we got are such a huge team, and just it's amazing to see them work. And that's probably one of the biggest things I worry about is, are we training them enough and right to do their job when they're deployed? That's probably my biggest concern. We can accomplish anything on Joe Foss Field. Have we set them up for success when they raise their hand and say, I'll go on a 6-month deployment?
Yeah, the gauge I would use for, say, especially a 7 level, is there are limitations. Your 5 level and your 7 level. But the way I would gauge it is, do I feel that person knows enough and is confident enough, number one, for guard drills, number two, for 2-week deployments, or 2-week TDYs, temporary duties, like going to Tucson for a snowbird in the winter, or overseas to a combat deployment, but when they're there doing it full time, that within 2 to 3 weeks, they really feel comfortable now with exactly what's going on there based on their prior training, and especially if they're introduced to a couple new tasks.
Yeah.
That's the way I gauged it. I tried to make them feel better about, if they're doubting themselves before they go.
Yes.
Right.
You gotta show them that you're confident in them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we got some people leaving, and every single one of them are going to go do amazing things, and that's great for us as a team to be able to say, but also for me, it's still in the back of my mind that, did we set them up for success, and did we train them?
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the point of the AGR program when it first came out. It's still in the ANGI that as AGRs, our first job is to train.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the mission's changed a little bit more where we're doing the flying thing, but we're still enabling training. We're still enabling pilots to go up every day. So we have to think with our DSGs that our first job is train and prepare, like Adam said, prepare those people to go down range. That, hey, here's your Connex boxes full of fittings, and here's your tent that your accounting's in with an Excel spreadsheet. Have fun.
And there's jets stacked up.
Yeah.
that
Oh
need
yeah.
fuel.
By the way, they're waiting for you to go take care of business.
Years ago when I was in sheet metal, Bob Funk was the fab super, and I think I was having one of those days where I probably was saying more than I should have. And I remember something Bob said. He said, just remember, you have this cushy job for the guardsman. I think it was after a guard drill, and I probably had to fix something that a guardsman did. And that really kind of hit home with me. It's like, yeah, so as I've gotten older, the focus on, are they ready? Can they go? And will they succeed has really meant a lot more to me and been a bigger focus in my career. I hope it shows. Because it's been a focus.
Yeah, and a while back we talked about trying to get your traditionals, your DSGs to another shop for maybe a half an hour or something, so you get to build that whole community there. But you're battling training time and all that. So we've talked about the skills that your DSGs bring you. How about the personalities?
We have one of everything.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna say,
we
which
really do.
moderator do you want? We started labeling different people as our moderators. We got an anger moderator. We got a truth moderator.
Yeah.
We say in POL that there's a fence around us. It's not always to keep bad people out. It's to keep us in.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have, like, I think we have one of each, but when I see us gel on a guard drill and even us as full-time, I've been in 31 years, and there's a reason I keep coming back every day. It's because of the people. And I heard that at every retirement that I had ever sat through. And I was like, yeah. And then I grew up and got to the point where it's like, it is about the people. You don't stay in places if the people aren't worth it. So it's, we got young kids to myself, and it's, how should I phrase it? We have a great mix.
Yeah. We do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, we just got to make sure we're leaning on that all the time. There's always something good to learn.
We have we've had a lot of good opportunities with guardsmen that want to do like temp tech days, or we're going to have 2 that are backfilling some spots during a deployment, and Steve came out and backfilled. No, he was on mess days. But when we get these lengths to be with them, we really get to, one, understand their personality, get to interact with them, see how they operate, and how we can best train them. You know, there's some people you can say, what the hell are you doing? You know, and then there's some people it's like, hey, let's think about how we're doing this and stuff. Yeah. So that's, I think that's been a challenge for all of us, I think, with the guardsmen, is just working through that. And we got 4 females in the shop now, which is amazing. I remember years ago, Maren Sorensen, who was Dave Sorensen's daughter, was in the shop, and she went to Minneapolis. And I think, is she in New Hampshire now?
Yes. Last I heard.
Yeah.
New Hampshire.
So, and then until then, it was just the boys club, and then we got these 4 women in, and I mean, it's just amazing the what they bring to it too. And one of them's my anger moderator. She
There you go.
She gets the attention of people when it needs to be done, and it's just awesome. I could go on for hours about the team. It's
That's great.
It's been a blessing to me, and to be honest, some days I feel like I'm slowing the team down. I just need to get out of the way and let them do what they do best.
Yeah, that's a deal. Absolutely. Yeah. You know, you try to work yourself out of a job anyway, so it sounds like you're doing that, which is exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I know. That's what I hear, but it makes you, what's the word? Not feel as valuable sometimes. I come out of my office and I'm like, oh, there's something's going on. There's something we got to fix. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I'll be back in my office.
Senior, back in the building, please.
If anything else comes up, just tell me how you're going to fix it. So
yeah, and you don't want to be looked at as lazy.
Right.
Loser.
Right. That was a great setup.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easier when I can set my own up.
Yeah. So.
Well, I think a lot of it is that we have to realize that he's not in the position to be out gassing jets anymore. That's not his role in the organization anymore. We can't, like, it's so unfair for us to look at you and go, why aren't you in a truck as much as I am at 30 years of experience and with my measly?
Because my knees can't take it.
Yeah. Well, I think all of our bodies are falling apart. But, you know, that's, again, trust. I just talked about it a little bit ago. Trust in relationships. I trust that you are doing the best job that you can. I trust that if you're not out busting sweat for some crazy reason, that you're doing your best job that you're there to do inside. And that's, you can't start taking role of who's doing what work. It'll drive you insane, and all it'll do is drive a wedge between anybody that you're knowing. So
Keeping score.
keeping score.
Yeah.
I hate keeping score.
just don't-
Braden, what's your thoughts on keeping score?
Yeah, you
We
want to
don't keep
elaborate a
score.
little bit about that?
We just don't do that. It's not nothing good comes with it.
No, it doesn't.
It
Yeah,
really
our,
doesn't.
our QC book was started to be called the Book of Shame. You know, when
yeah.
when I said, you know, after the merger, and you know, our shop was rock stars for decades, but then after the merger, it got to be too much, and then you know, we were like second most written up
Yeah.
career field in the Air Force. That's hard to take.
Yeah.
That is really hard
Especially
to take.
at the 114th when we're
Yeah.
a cut above the rest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So people start eating their own, you know, with some of that, and that you got to fight against that.
Yeah.
You got to
Yeah.
just people need to, even if it's fake at first, care about each other.
Yep. 100%.
I've told these guys, you know, we don't have to go camping every weekend, but when we're at work, we got to work together. We have six people full time, and we got 9 guardsmen, and said we're too small. We can't fight. And we've had some awkward conversations, and we've had to sit some people down and say, you are upset with each other, and we're going to get it out here because
Just had one of those conversations today. Had a fitting ripped out of my hand. We had a conversation about it. We had a misunderstanding. It's amazing. Most of those are just misunderstandings.
yeah,
Like I think that's just growing up. Like
It is.
You've got to mature.
yeah,
This is the Air National Guard as a whole is too small to hold petty fights with each other about stupid crap. Like you've got to break those little bit of tension every now and then, because most of the time it's just a misunderstanding.
Beer.
Yeah, beer helps. Beer helps. Yeah,
No doubt.
Yeah.
You cannot
Yeah.
understand the team building when there is a cold beer on the table and everybody is relaxed.
Right.
Well, it's the same when you go to these big conferences and meetings. Most of your problems are solved at the bar.
Yeah.
Everybody's relaxed.
Yep.
And not like half of this country get offended with everything that's being said.
Correct.
You know, and just
Correct.
go, you know, hey, you know, I didn't think about it that way before, you know, and have those kinds of conversations.
And that's a great point. 99% of the time where there's a misunderstanding, it's because you just can't think of it through their lens or look at it or say, I did overreact in that situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When people learn that, and it won't be 100%, but it just helps everything get better. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, because we always say, like, the other day we had one of our younger guys had something happen, and he felt really bad about it. I'm like, you know, we've all done that.
We've all done
exact thing.
The reason
So
why we
stuff.
call that baptism.
it's like there's a reason why certain things we know, like you know, how to solve that problem or whatever. It's because we've messed it up already.
Yeah.
Or,
Right.
you know, so
And
it is, you know, it's just a learning experience.
and I think we went outside and laughed about it.
we did.
Yeah, we
You
sure
know,
did.
you don't want to beat yourself up.
No. And I think we all of us saw that right away. Like this kid knew he made a mistake, and it made a mess.
And he made it in front of
And he
a lot
made
of
it in
people.
front
He didn't
of
want to
all
make it
of
in
us.
front of all
and
of
then,
us.
And then the realization came of, oh, now all of these people are having to do work because of something I did. And the first thing,
Busted.
yeah.
That doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
No.
So I mean, the first thing we did was laughed. Like, oh, we got it. You finally got the baptism.
I think
You
what I
finally
said
did
to I said to Braden was, well, they're getting pigs and pads out. We should probably I'll go see what's
what's
going on.
Yeah. So
Don't
Yeah,
worry, you
it's-
don't need to rush.
No,
Like a
there's-
pickup stuck in the rocks.
That's one thing our shop as a whole is a mistake was made. We're going to help you through it. We're going to sit down and discuss why it happened. We're going to point and laugh, and you're never going to do it again. And we try and take a very calm approach to it, because if you're running around with your hair on fire, all it does is amp up everybody. And this kid, he couldn't find the hole, you know, quick enough to crawl into, you know. And like I said, everything that's a new person or even a seasoned veteran has done, we've all done,
Right.
or we're gonna do it.
yep.
Yeah. And I've talked to a lot of younger folks, and they're like, they're in awe of some of the older people, and they're like, how do they know all this and that and the other? And I was like, dude, you're 10 years into your career. What are you like now compared to 8 years ago? So just keep doing what you're doing, and you will be that person.
Yep.
But you won't see it grown, you know, on a daily basis,
Right.
you know, kind of deal. But give yourself some credit, man. You know, you're you're progressing. You're
I
growing.
don't know how many times I scurried out to the scrap aluminum bin to get something in there before the rest of the guys would see it when I was in sheet metal because you're like, I did not allow enough material for that bend and now it's not right. But I never did it again.
Yep.
But
Right.
you know, it's
Right.
you learn you like with these guys, I let them go and the team and you think you do, but and I'll keep you out of the ditches. But you know, the thing is, we got such a good team that everybody keeps everybody out of the ditches. And one thing that's really cool is we're really trying to. That was Wayne Shanks that told me, you always train your replacement.
Yep.
And that's something I've tried to instill, and now it's rippled down. These guys are doing it, and we read a book, and it was Turn the Ship Around, and I mean that's like our motto when somebody comes and asks a question. Well, what do you think? You already know you already have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just have the confidence to say, I think we should do it this way.
And when you're training your replacement, that's a group of people.
Exactly.
So there's good competition. You know, so it doesn't look like pre-selection and stuff as well.
Yep.
Right.
And you're training everybody, and if there's somebody that's, you know, say got 10 years less than the other, if their schedule allows, you include that person as well. I mean, just everybody.
Yeah.
You can't lose on training. You
No.
really can't.
And one thing I saw too that, and I remember when I was active duty, and you'd always see like the techs and the masters, and maybe a couple staff sergeants would be talking. Then they'd come out and tell you what to do. And active duty, I understand it's a bigger monster. You know, there's a lot more people in the shift, but you know, we talk about a lot of things, and it's like, guys, how do we want to work through this? You know, it doesn't just need to be a group of us that are saying, okay, this is how we're going to do it, and now go do it. And I'm an idiot if I don't listen to the guy that's out there doing the job every day.
Right. And
You know.
small shops is definitely a dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope it, you know, all of it is geared towards, you know, you're part of the team and you are an active part of the team. So we're going to lean on you like that. And we want to start getting the guardsmen to think that way too.
Right.
You know, it's awesome.
So we've talked about things that go wrong. Now, talk about a time or two where like your best days or most proud days or whatever in your career up to this point. I didn't give these guys this list,
Yeah.
you know, ahead of time. So
That was the first question I asked Trevor. Are we going to get the questions ahead of time?
I don't remember
So-
many of these questions from your previous podcasts. I did a lot of research before this. This isn't right.
I just grabbed these an hour before you showed up. So just to have some time fillers, because dynamics are better just off the cuff.
absolutely.
But
So like proud days, I would say that falls into the same thing we just talked about. Like not so much a day or whatever, but where I was at when I first started till now. Just, you know, the whole thing about not keeping score. We're training our replacements. Every day we're trying to, you know, be better. So be better than yesterday. So that's where I think, you know, we let people think and come up with their ideas, and we talk about it, and everybody's part of it, and everybody brings their own set of skills to the table. But I think just before you kind of like what Adam was saying, it may have been a little bit like, this is what you're going to do. And he just didn't really think about it. And like, okay. So just to be enlightened with like, we all can think and we have our own ideas, and we're going to use the one that's the best. And it doesn't matter who came up with it. And that's fine. You know,
But it makes you feel good if you're the person that brought it up and they used
Right.
all or even just part of
Right,
what
exactly.
you-
And we've
sometimes
had-
it's better when it's part of your idea and part of this person's idea combined is the solution.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a good feeling.
Yeah. So those are the days where, some of that where we had, hey, what do you think about this? And we came together, and it may not have been exactly whatever, but we changed something, or the old, why are we doing this? Well, I don't really know. And you figure out there isn't really any reason. So those are the days where those are good days. It's always that improvement. I really appreciate that we do that. So yeah.
Right. How
So-
about yours?
So I'm pretty biased. I think a staff sergeant's the best rank in the Air Force.
There you go.
My favorite days. So I've taken my role as a staff sergeant as it's my job to be in with airmen and growing them and mentoring them so that sometime very soon they'll replace me. I I've recently started telling senior airmen I've got 24 guard drills to get you to replace me. And because that's what, for me, that's what hits. I've got 24 weeks, 24 weekends to get you to where you're going to replace me. And there's definitely some bad days in that process, but those days where you see that growth and you see that movement and you see that maturing, those outrule every single bad day there is. Those are some of the, I think I told you that, like when it all of a sudden comes together and it's like the Mona Lisa hanging on the wall. It's like you forget everything in the world. And it's like, we got it. This puzzle just made sense. Those are my favorite days.
There you go. How about you, Adam?
Probably a lot of what both of them said. For me, the best days are when you have a conversation with somebody and you give them some advice and you just see it click, or you see them 6 months from when you had the conversation and you just see they took my advice, they listened, and they executed. Those are the coolest things. Just when you see a young airman, staff sergeant, whatever the rank, just growing as growing in their family and taking new roles on our full-time side, everybody but one individual has young kids. So me getting to try and help them through that, and then when it clicks, it's just amazing. And I think too, some of the best days are when I've come in and I've been not in the mindset I needed to be, and I had a conversation with one of them or a couple of them, and it's like we're so close that we just help each other out. And when you come in and you're in that mood and they're like, "What's wrong?" and you say nothing, and they're like, "No, what's wrong?"
They know that's BS.
I can see it right through that.
No.
Yeah, seeing them grow as individuals, that's just the amazing part. I do have to say my incentive flight was the coolest.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
That hard to describe, but physically, that's the coolest thing I've ever been through, and that. But just working with this team, and even outside of the POL team, when I get to have conversations with other supervisors, maybe, and when they start running things by me, like, "Hey, what do you think about this or that?" That's awesome that they value my opinion enough to ask me, and I just try and give them the best advice. That's the best thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
You do that double check when they ask you, "Oh, you're talking to me, Claire?" Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and none of those answers surprised me at all, based on what got us to do this podcast in the first place, on what you said about you and your shop, about the relationships. You guys are hesitant to talk about your own best accomplishments because you've got that mindset within the shop of the group mentality, helping each other, the team, and all that. That's pretty awesome to hear.
Yeah.
Pretty
Thank
awesome
you.
to hear, no doubt.
Yeah, it definitely makes things. I mean, so the way our shop is and the way our career field is built is that there's always a two-man policy
Yep.
for everything. And it can be annoying at times, but then you start to realize that there's a lot of good that come with it, because now you can't act as an individual. You have to act as a two-person team where you have to value somebody else's opinion and experiences. And sometimes their opinion's not going to be the same as yours. And their way of looking at that puzzle or that problem is going to be completely different. And more than likely, it's going to be better. So I think that helps a lot too.
I know for me, Braden's a huge sounding board, because I'll come in and I'm like, "Am I seeing this right? Because this is what I'm seeing, but is my lens clear, or am I frustrated about something else and this is annoying me?" And just having that ability for Braden to say, "No, you're seeing it right," or "No, I don't think the way you're seeing it's right." And it's really awesome, because then he doesn't have to explain to me, because I trust him, and I'm like, "Okay," and with everybody in the shop, our trust level is so strong that that's how we can function so well as a team. And it blows me away how receptive of a team they were to some things I thought might work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's crazy when that type of stuff comes back at home. Like, I've been married 7 years. Anybody that's been married knows that marriage is not easy. And being able to see a little bit and then all of a sudden go, wait a minute, something doesn't click here. Let's have a conversation really quick. Oh, you're seeing this way, I'm seeing this way. Why are we hating each other right now when we're just seeing it from two different perspectives and we're both on the same page?
And sometimes you're agreeing, but you don't know it.
Exactly.
And just because of
Yeah.
the way things are said, and certain
Yes.
words and body
Communication.
language and all that.
Yeah, communication's a real son of a gun, I tell you.
Every professional military education you'll take, there's a big chapter on communication.
And it's
I wonder why that is.
because it's the thing we can't do really, really well.
Yeah.
And on the fly, sometimes
Yes.
Well,
speed
Right. Yes.
and pressure
Yeah.
takes some of that away.
Unfortunately for a lot of us, that's the best way we learn is through on the fly and on the job. I mean, it's no different than on the job training for actual skill set, on the job training for communication, for any sort of mentorship, leadership. What I tell you, and you say, hey, what can I give you for help to help you improve? I go, give me reps. Just give me reps. Give me another opportunity. Give me another try.
Mm-hmm.
Let me keep getting it wrong because I'm learning something every time. And it can be tough, but it eventually works.
So what's one of the funniest things that's happened to or around you? I wasn't sure how to word that question, so I added the or around you at the end.
Well, there was a time I parked a pickup in the rocks and it sank to the axle. That was
Oh,
fun.
that was great.
You want to talk about humbling?
I remember
That was
Braden
funny.
telling me,
That's
"Hey,
funny.
you want to see something?" And I get up and he's like, "No, you don't need to rest or to rush." And I'm like, "I know exactly what happened. Trevor got the pickup stuck."
And it was stuck good. Yeah. I had you want to talk about humbling? I had to walk over to vehicle maintenance, which luckily it's a short walk, and explain to them at the time. Tracy Heibolt, I think, was still there, and of course, Tracy was standing in the shop when I had to talk about it, and so I got a little bit from them, and I got a little bit from these guys, and I think
Paul mentioned something
I think
too.
there were some explicitives there on the backside that, but those are that was definitely one of the funniest things in my career, but that comes back to the mistakes. We make so many mistakes day in and day out that they just grow us. And you bet your tail when it's wet like it was this morning, I'm not driving anywhere near those rocks with anything.
Busted.
Yeah. If there's, I have made a lot of mistakes in my career, and some of them big and some of them small. And I'm sure I've got plenty more to make in the next 12 to 15 years. But, at first it was really tough to make those mistakes because the culture wasn't about making those mistakes.
Right.
And that's something these two have grown around me and going, hey, go break some eggs. We'll fix it in the backside if we need to. Unless it's something really stupid, then we might have to have a conversation.
Sure.
But that's when all my most funny moments come out of it, when I'm trying to break an egg and it smashes right in my face.
Yeah. Now you don't have to tell on yourself. It can just be funny, but I'll leave that wide open to you. What are some of your funniest things that have happened to or about you or around you?
It didn't. Well, okay, it did involve me, and it's on the wall at work. It's a
Oh yeah.
so we
Glass
drain
to
our
sand.
trucks every day with a quart jar, and we used to have a holder.
Technically,
for it.
it's still
It's
there.
homemade.
Still
We
there.
yeah, I guess we kind of do, but we have a holder for it that we would put it in so you wouldn't drop it on the ground and break the jar. And one of our guys, it was his first day back from tech school and everything, and I go out with him. We're kind of shorthanded. It was just me, Adam, and him, and we go do our checkpoint on our truck. So we do a daily checkpoint, and one of the checks is you roll the truck forward to make sure the brakes are working, right? So what I didn't realize, and what he probably didn't realize he had done, is he set that quart jar and the holder right in the line of the duals. So when I rolled the truck forward, smushed that down into a flat pancake, and then I backed right back over it.
Oh, man.
I don't know if you've seen what 72,000 pounds does to
Yeah,
a glass
so-
it's sand.
Turns it back to sand.
sand. But it was one of those things. It was his first day, and he's looking at me like wide-eyed, and I'm like, well, at first I saw glass. I'm like, oh, did you drop the jar? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, did I run it over? Yeah. And then I just started laughing. So, it was just one of those things like, what else are you going to do? It was pretty funny. But so what we did is I framed it, put it on the wall, and then put the month and the year,
There you
and
go.
then who did it.
Yeah.
So, and then everybody stares at it like,
It almost looks like modern art.
Yeah.
Sure,
if
it's
you-
like abstract.
yeah, it's an abstract art type
it's
thing.
abstract
So
art.
that was one of my funniest days. That was hilarious because I go tell Adam, and he just same thing as I did. Couldn't hardly stand up because he's laughing so hard. And then what it looked like made us laugh even harder. But so that was pretty
Oh.
memorable.
That's right up there with Joel saying there's a light dusting in the cab of that
Oh
truck.
my gosh. This was December, January, but it was a window in one of the trucks had been left down just an inch.
Sure.
And we had one of those white, powdery, windy snowstorms. And I think I came in about 8:30. I had to get the driveway cleared before I could come to work. And I wasn't even to the gate yet. And one of the guardsmen that was making up a day is like, 1-8 won't start and this and that. And the window got left open in 9-2 and there's a light dusting. And I'm like, Joel, I haven't even gotten in the gate. Just let me change and then we'll tackle this. And so we get stuff started and whatever. And then I go down to 9-2 and I open the door and it was anything but a light dusting. There was snow everywhere in that cab. And the first thing out of my mouth was, Joel, this is not a light dusting. And, we laughed. And so we took it over to VM and parked it there for the day. And at the end of the day, so it would dry out, had a fan in it. And we had these little signs that we put on the steering wheel because we'd plug the trucks in. And the sign was, make sure that unplug the truck before moving. And so that was on the floor. And when I went to plug the truck in at the end of the day, I lifted it up and there was a little spot of water underneath it. And I started laughing again. And that was funny. A light dusting. That was a good one.
Yeah. Good stuff.
There's many more, but we don't
Those
want
are-
to air
sure,
all
those
of
are
them.
There's a
the
lot of
most
laundry we
memorable
could
that we
learn,
talk about.
Like we said, we've
Pretty
made some
regularly.
mistakes, but we love to laugh about them because even if they were harmful at the time, we all learned something that makes them somewhat harmless.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's a good way to put it.
yeah, and it's if any of the young folks are watching this, like, you're going to make mistakes. It is bound to happen. There's no universe where you can.
Trevor
work in
didn't
this.
think he was going to make any when he first
Oh,
started,
my
but that was because he
Lord.
knew everything.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah, and boy, did I didn't know. I didn't know the things I didn't know. I had no idea the mistakes that I was capable of making.
Mhm.
I mean, how many bames of floor dry did we put down on that truck that I clipped the cam lock on?
it was less than 5 gallons.
Yes, it sure was.
There's a country song that has a line in there about I could write a book about what I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
It was later in his life, I'm sure.
Yeah. I learned a lot of things the hard way really quick. And I'd love to think that it's made me better at this job.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still, I'm almost scared of what the next thing's going to be because the list I've accomplished is.
Well, you've knocked out a lot of the big ones early in your
have,
career,
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
Picking
good.
up from here.
Yeah. Still haven't hit an airplane.
Well, and then
We
depends
still-
on possible future jobs too. I mean,
Yeah.
you may not be in POL
Right.
the whole rest of your career.
Right.
That's very true.
Right.
A whole new set
Oh
of
boy,
things.
that's
to
a
learn.
whole nother book.
Yeah, not to discourage you or encourage you, one or the other.
I remember walking out the gate when I got the sheet metal job, to walking out the gate of POL going, oh, I'll never be back there. Well, here I am.
Yeah.
So never say never.
Right.
Well, and years ago, I mean, when I first got in full time in '92, I mean, the saying was somebody either had to retire or die, because everybody, most people did stay where they were
Yeah.
at. And then look at 20 years ago, and people started moving more and more, and there was more of your situation where they moved out of into a different career
Yeah.
field, and then get hired back as a supervisor later. People started seeing that, and it's like, it is possible to move out and come back in or learn a new trade, a new system. Some people craved it. Some people really wanted the change and the updates. But shoot, nowadays it's like, man, if somebody's been somewhere 5 years,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you've seen some of the podcasts, so there is one question that you may know of. So I was debating on, do I start with the older or the younger? But now since you're shaking your head, I'll start with the younger one. Now you've got kids.
Yeah.
You'll have grandkids coming. So let's call it at a minimum great grandkids
Yeah.
sitting under that center camera there.
Yeah.
What would you say to them if they actually see this down the line and see what great grandpa did in his younger days?
You know, that's a question. I obviously, like I said, I've seen a lot of your episodes, and FEMA's was good. Being American Worth Dying For. I suck at being original sometimes, but I think the biggest thing is don't ever be afraid to try something new, and don't ever be afraid of what eggs you might break. You know, you don't know the mistakes you're going to make, and as long as you find value in them and learn from them, that's going to be worth every penny. So don't be scared to screw some stuff up, and don't be afraid to try something new. You never know what door it might open.
There you go. Age-wise, we will scoot this way. And
All right.
same question. Have you seen any of those on the?
I don't think I did. I must.
Good. That's why I wanted it.
Yeah. So this
I
is.
haven't seen any of these questions either.
Yeah, I think I just saw maybe the middle of these or something, but I don't remember this. So
Sure.
No, I think mine is what I guess going back to what we talked about before is, well, for one, just be a good person. You know, somebody needs help them. You know, same old stuff I was always told. Like, and then, yeah, like Trevor said, try new things, get yourself out there. You know, like don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it's going to happen either way, whether you like it or not. So, but yeah, no, main thing is just in this day and age is just we could use a lot of good people. So just be a good person. That's a good start. So
Nice.
Be somebody that's willing to see the people around you succeed more than you want to succeed. Just be that guy on the team that is okay saying Braden and Trevor got credit for this, and I'm super happy for them. Work hard with everything. I think too, be a man that your wife would want to be around. Be a man that your team wants to be around. Just be the person that is always there to build them up. I think they covered both of it, like Braden said. You know, just be a good person. Help the people that need help. Like Trevor said, I ran my first marathon about half marathon in 2016, and my son would ride the bike while I was training. A lot of conversations, which it was an amazing time. But I remember telling him, don't be scared to try something because you think you're going to fail. And I said, that's why I'm doing this now, this late in my career or in my life. And I let too many things, I didn't try it because I was afraid I was going to fail. And just don't do that. If the only time you fail is when you don't learn something from it. So, yeah. That's what I got.
Marathons. I had no idea. You know, I didn't know you all that well in the Guard either. Our worlds were too far apart. Plus, I'm always older than you.
Yeah, a little bit.
But yeah, marathons is 8 years ago-ish. Or?
Yeah,
Wow.
I ran a jeepers. Yeah, I ran a half, and then I ran a full, and I met a guy at a school, and he's older than me, and he started long distance running at 47, and he was the one that encouraged me. He's like, just sign up for it, train for it, you can do it. And I signed up during that class, and he actually was from Ohio, and he flew out and ran it with me.
Nice.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, his name's Jim, and he's the most empowering person you'll ever meet. He's a great guy to have on your team, and I talk about him with these guys, and yeah, so yeah, just encourage all you can.
Well, I'm going to encourage you guys not to have this be the last time you're in the hog house.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
lot of
we'll
fun.
be sending out the invites to the wild game feed, like I said, usually 2 weeks after Super Bowl, and that's because it's everybody's pissed because it's football's done. It's still winter time. I got to get out of here, you know, kind of stuff. So we'll fire up. We heat this place up with wood over there, and we just fill that ping pong table full of food.
Yeah.
And
I think
it's a good time.
we'll try and make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I am. That's the yeah.
Well, maybe as we keep doing these, we'll have Hog House Chronicle reunion.
Right.
That'd be fun.
That'd
That'd be fun.
Right.
Actually, a bunch of people that I was weapon system team chiefs with that I was explaining that program a little while back, this Veterans Day weekend, second weekend in November, got people coming back.
Oh, nice.
Oh, cool.
Memphis, East Coast,
Oh, wow.
Southeast Coast, maybe West Coast. I'm not sure, but yeah. So it's a good time, and like I said, there's over 170 items that people have donated in here, and sometimes it's fun just to walk around, take a look at some things and stuff. But yeah, just doing what we're doing here is what this place is about. And I was so impressed when you were talking about your supervisor, and man, this whole talk on this whole thing was it had that theme. I knew you weren't lying about it, and I knew you were pretty passionate about it, because those are probably the third sentence that we had together, and having never met was about that.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, dude, we got to get these guys on here and talk. And I appreciate you guys doing it too, since you're still in the military also. And everything you were talking about, you could tell it was genuine. You're not painting the curb white. You know, it's just really refreshing to hear about a shop that is as cohesive as you guys are, and with the other people in the shop, including the DSGs.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm sure they appreciate it as well.
Right.
So this sounds like a closing, but it doesn't have to be. You have any other things you want to talk about? Any stories, personal, professional, aspirations?
I do remember
retirement.
I remember one thing when we were talking about why did I join or whatever. Well, I knew the Air Guard was there because when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, I suppose, we were outside at the time, whatever gate there was at the Guard. There wasn't really anything. Well, a crew chief, I wish I knew who it was, but he came out and asked my dad, what are you guys doing? And like, oh, we're just watching the planes take off. And it's like, well, you do want to come in and look at one?
Nice.
So that's what it was back then,
Things are different.
So before 9/11 and all that. But yeah, so we went in and got to see a jet, and I think that stuck in my mind too, and I knew my grandpa was in the Marine Corps, my other grandpa was in the Army, and I always asked my one, like, why'd you join the Marines? He goes, well, everybody else joined the Army. So I just figured I'd join the Marines, and so I'm like, well, I don't want to join the Navy, so I'll see about the Air Force. That's kind of where I left off. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought of that. That was something. I don't even know if there was. We walked right on base, I think, or something. It was, or maybe
The old
he
FPCon
escorted
Alpha.
us. I can't really remember what it was like, but we just ended up out in the hangar. So
There was a time when there wasn't a quarter of the fences out there that there are now.
right. So
Yeah.
I remember learning about the Air Guard. I was in tech school,
yeah.
and we were studying for our last test, and these guys are talking, and they're like, what base did you get? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to Edwards. I'm like, what did you get? No, I'm going back home. I go, what now? Yeah, it's 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. And I'm like, what now?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the big picture, I needed to go and do that. And, the things you do, you don't realize when you're going through them, how much they're shaping and laying your path out for you. So
I'm glad I did it for a taste of active duty.
absolutely.
But got out what they call Palace Chase.
Yep.
How much commitment you have left, you double it and go on the Guard.
Yep.
And then, like you were learning about the DSGs 1 week in a month. Too.
Yeah.
Then you find out, there's full-time positions.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you start learning about federal employees, position technician, and then active
And then
Guard and reserve,
AGR.
Yeah.
which is a lot more AGRs now than federal
Yeah.
employees. I never
Right.
thought I'd see the day where people weren't applying for the federal
Yeah.
positions.
It's
That
a thing.
nothing stays the
No.
same.
We've
No.
recently had the had the chief of staff of the National Guard Bureau, 4-star General Hokanson, and the SEA Whitehead come through, and they both talked about that and how they're working to try to improve it and to fix it because they've started to recognize the broken pieces on the technician side. And so I think we see a lot of change over the years. I think we're about to see a lot more change in the next 10 across a lot of different facets. So he got talking when he was younger, his taste of the Air Guard. I didn't even realize it when I was younger, and it's just popped into my head. Starbase. Starbase is what first got me on Joe Foss.
You
Field.
were in Starbase?
I went through Starbase. I had Pegasus in Starbase,
Huh.
which is really cool because more than likely at the time, there's a good chance one of these guys was filling the nitrogen to make the ice cream I ate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
How
either
cool is
me or
that?
somebody in my shop came in and
Yep.
talked about equipment and survival
Absolutely.
and stuff.
And even crazier thing, I don't know what your guys' experience is, but everybody in South Dakota is related to somebody in the South Dakota Air Guard. I guarantee it.
Yep.
I bought a house. So if you guys remember Pegasus that used to run Starbase, the house I bought was from her sister. And it's just the connections that happen. So that was just crazy to me. I didn't even remember that until just now. But yeah, Starbase, it worked. And I was just down at Offutt. They're getting ready to launch Starbase down at Offutt. They don't have it yet.
Yeah, and for those that don't know what
Yeah,
it is,
crazy,
it's like, what is it, 4th to 6th graders or
Yeah.
younger kids getting them introduced into math and science
Yep.
and getting them engaged with that by learning things about airplanes and flying.
Yep. I remember one specific. I mean, obviously the ice cream. We always, of course, I always remember the ice cream. But we used a sled, this long sled, and we put an egg in it, and we had to slide it down. You could see what happens when energy stops, and just kind of obviously we all know you drop an egg on the floor, it's going to break. Well, at Starbase they explained why that this energy exists, and a lot of the fighter pilots talk about you're always working with energy, whether or not you're using it or losing it. It's all about energy. And the fact that Starbase teaches that right away is just an awesome thing.
Is that why you talk about breaking eggs when you make a mistake?
Yep, sure
working
do.
out? It all
Sure
stemmed
do.
from that.
Yep, that's where it all started from. Yep.
Did you ever do one of the summer, like a June course over at Newton Hill State Park over here? Not everybody got to do it.
No, I don't think I did.
Did you get lost in the woods?
No, I was I went to Leif Erikson Day Camp when I was a lot younger, and I think we may have spent a little bit of time out there, but I don't really remember at all. There's a lot of memories from that part of my life that I don't quite keep at the front of the toolbox. So, yeah, I think I've been in there once before, but not enough to remember.
Yeah, the Starbase program is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think it influences a lot of young people. And when it first started, it was really generating towards the underprivileged kids, and then it grew from there. So they got more people involved with it, just anybody to learn more about math and science.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I still have my PowerPoint presentations on the computer for that.
That's
awesome. They don't know you're using math. Who plays pool here?
Yep.
Well, you're using geometry. The angle of inflection equals angle of deflection.
Yep.
At a pool table drawing there and all the dotted lines and stuff. They're like, wow.
Yeah.
You were creating pool hustlers.
I was going to say, nobody was throwing $1 down after I was talking.
I learned this move at Starbase.
Yeah. For as much liquid nitrogen we got for them, I don't think the ice cream for us equaled out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every now and again.
Yep.
They do some invites.
They take care of us, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I talked about, I manage the cryogenic stuff on a base. That tool for filling the Starbase thing still hanging in there, and that's the only reason I keep it is because that directly affected my career. Is seeing that and then tying it. Had no idea that POL was a part of that, and then now I walk into that shed. I go, Starbase filler. Sounds good. It stays right there. It does not leave that spot.
Yeah, and that program's changed some where they have fewer like tours and certain things coming in there. So,
Right.
yeah, pretty wild. So, how you guys doing on warmth?
It's warm.
Doing all right?
It's warm.
I sweat in December.
Yeah. It's no different from, yeah.
Yeah, see, we've been trying to film this for a while, but the hog house itself, it's not air conditioned in here, and we're at the end of August right now.
Yeah.
So we had the storms run through last night. It was still a little warm, and the flies haven't been bad.
No.
We haven't had
Not too
to
bad.
do that.
No.
But yeah, so if we're a little extra shiny or whatever, it's because we're locked in this hog house with the doors closed, keeps the cat out, keep more of the flies out and stuff. stuff. But yeah, it went pretty good as far as comfort level. Now those things those stools aren't the most comfortable. So
I
I'm
think
glad
they
I
need
see
broke in a
you
little
moving around a
Yeah.
little bit, get a little. So I think we're going to, unless you got something more to say.
No.
Anything more to talk about? I sure appreciate you guys coming
Well,
out
thank
here.
you
for
Jim.
working with us.
Appreciate this.
Yeah,
This is
You always hear on other podcasts, we've been trying to do this for a while now, and I understand it now. It makes a little bit of sense.
Last year, there was one I did in the summer, and I got permission to film it in the Alliance.
Oh,
So I
wow.
went up
Nice.
there. Larry Tenniger, part 1 and 2. If you haven't seen that one, there's a story there I'll tell you about in a little bit here. But and there's some other Vietnam ones as well. And one is I have an uncle that left the Air Force for the Army.
Ooh.
wow.
Is he okay?
And got 2 tours in Vietnam out of the deal. Yeah. So that one's on there too.
Oh wow.
But I asked him, I said, Uncle Glenn Wakefield is his name. And said, why did you do that? And we know how regulations are. And he said, I got so tired of them telling me what to do and how to do it. I went to where they told me what to do and I got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah.
you bet, stand
Well,
by your values.
We've come across some of that. We have, is it 4X Army
Yeah.
in our shop now?
Yep.
And sometimes we're a little, whoa.
Whoa,
We,
whoa, 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 whoa,
we
whoa.
love your can-do attitude, but we just got to reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've really been trying. You want to give them some reins, but yeah, you know how it was. It was TO step by step by step. I'm getting a stuck screw out. I got it step by step by step. I've done it 1,000 times, but that TO's out. So yeah, the Army is good at that. What do we need to do? And then let us do it.
Yeah.
Right.
So
You bet. All right. Well, I think you fellas ready for a cool one?
that sounds good.
Sounds good.
I am
Yeah.
too. All right, we're going to open these doors, let the flies and the cat in and all that, and we're going to go look at a couple of things we talked about. But once again, thanks for doing this.
thank
Thank
you,
you for your
Jim.
patience.
Thank you
and
so much.
maybe there will be some other shops that want to do this.
I
I
hope
hope
so.
so.
you know.
I hope so.
So,
Everybody's got a story.
Make the reunion bigger even.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Thanks for listening. And that's it. Sweet. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was a lot of fun.
That was
was
fun.
cool.
A lot of fun. I'm glad we did it.
Thank you, Trevor.
Well, thank you for saying yes.
Yeah, and I was
So
I
I said it
bailed
took
on
me a
Jim
couple
once.
days to figure it out. I gave him about 3 hours.
well, I know you used to ask me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh man, podcasts. I listen to them.
Yeah, you don't have to put the beer cans back
Oh,
in there.
that's
It's
fine.
You just
Sorry,
We're going to go into a suitcase here shortly.
Sure. Yeah, mine's a little metal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
All
you
right.
very much. This was fun.
Yeah,
A lot of
no,
fun.
it's
Glad you liked it. I
stuff
sure
you
did.
remember too when you're talking. Like, oh yeah, I did do that. Or that's crazy. Like,
Yeah, when I was thinking of my
yes, I really wish I knew who
was
that
just
crew
like,
chief
wow.
was though. That
Yeah.
came out like, hey, what are you guys up to?
Right.
Like, I don't know. We're just watching them take off for the afternoon. My dad loved that stuff. And,
Airplanes are cool.
I remember seeing the Thunderbirds when I was in high school, and it didn't click to me that this was the Air Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was the Air Guard until, like, I didn't have a
Please
Air
come
Guard
with us,
recruiter.
Hello, this is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo, South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And today we're here with Trevor, Braden, and Adam, and they are active members or actively members in the South Dakota Air National Guard. And Trevor contacted me with a friend request on Facebook, mentioned the podcasts, and one of the main things that he talked about was his supervisor and how he really is impressed with. I'm starting over now.
That was really good. That was great.
Well, at least you got the first I'm starting over out of the way,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it wasn't us, Jim. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
appreciate you.
That works. All right.